Mystery Theory. Today, I am going to share with you a case that will take us to Lexington County, South Carolina, into the year 1985. By the end of May, to be exact, May 31st, 1985, it was very, very hot, and 17-year-old Sharon, or Sherry, how her family and friends call her, spent the day with her boyfriend Richard and also a few friends, and they were swimming at the nearby Lake Murray. They were very excited. It was Friday, and their graduation was that following Sunday. Sherry loved to sing, and she was scheduled to sing the national anthem at the ceremony. And immediately after the ceremony, they all had tickets to go on a cruise to the Bahamas. Now, we're still on Friday, and after leaving the lake, Sherry's boyfriend, Richard, watched her turn off the main highway toward her road where she lived, Platt Springs Road. The house had a very long driveway, 750 feet. She pulled into the driveway at 3:38 p.m. in her blue Chevy Chevette. My family had one of those, but it was yellow. Her father was working in his home office, and he was looking out the window and saw Sherry stop by the mailbox to get the mail. As this is something that she typically would do. So he continued to do his work, expecting her to come in the door any minute. But 10 minutes went by and she hadn't come in. So he looked out the window again. He could see her car was still there, with the driver's side open, but she was not there. So Sherry's father got in his own car and drove down the long driveway to see if she needed help. Maybe she was talking to a neighbor. Then, when he got to her car, he saw that the car door was not only open, but that the car was still running. He also spotted some bare footprints in the soft dirt leading to the mailbox. And the mail was laying on the ground. There were no footprints coming back. In the car, he could see that her towel, black jelly shoes, and her purse with medication explained that her car was left running and that she left without her medication. He also explained that her condition could be potentially fatal. So police paid attention and they put together a search team. Within hours, the sheriff, James Metz, which was a graduate of the FBI's National Academy, organized this, the largest at that point, manhunt in South Carolina's history. They set up a mobile command center in front of the house. They parked a large trailer on their property that was equipped with radios, phones, and there was people there 24 hours a day. Sherry's boyfriend, Richard, and other friends were quickly eliminated as suspects. Her mother, Hilda, could still remember everyone in the neighborhood, in the area, in the community, looking for Sherry. By Saturday evening, police believed, of course we need that, out of the ordinary loud vehicle. Welcome to warm weather. Anyways, by Saturday evening, police believed that Sherry had been abducted and that they were hoping for ransom for her safe return. Sherry's parents waited by the phone, but they only got a cruel hoax. Sunday was the day that Sherry was supposed to sing at her graduation, but she wasn't there. The only witnesses or clues, I guess, was one that they received from two boys that claimed to be driving down Platt Springs Road. They said that they saw Sherry at the mailbox, and they also said that they briefly saw a reddish purple car coming toward them, driven by a man in his 30s. They were not sure if it was a 1982 or 1984 Oldsmobile Cutlass. At 2:20 a.m. on Monday morning, the phone finally rang. It was a guy with some kind of a voice distortion device to hide his identity. He wanted to speak to Sherry's mother, Hilda, and he wanted to prove to her that the call was not a hoax, and described to her in detail the clothes that Sherry was wearing that Friday. He described the bathing suit and what was covering the bathing suit as well. Then he told Sherry's mom that they were going to receive a letter in the mail between 1 and 2 p.m., 2:20 p.m. He said that at the top of the letter there would be dated 6/1/85, and the time asked Sherry's mom to tell the sheriff to go on TV at 7 a.m. on Channel 10 and call off the search. When they traced the call, it was a payphone about 12 miles away from the family home. But when they arrived there, they couldn't find anybody. They checked for fingerprints, but whoever used it last wiped the phone clean. The phone call was not recorded, but Sherry's mom took notes during the call. The caller reassured her that Sherry was fine. He told her she was eating a little, drinking lots of water, and watching TV. He didn't mention a ransom or anything like that. Police didn't want to waste their time waiting until later in the day for the letter to arrive, so the sheriff called the post office. They opened it in the middle of the night, and FBI agents sorted through the coming days' mail. By 7 a.m., they found the letter addressed to the Smith family, and it was a legal-size envelope with a small piece of blue-lined paper pasted on the outside with the Smith's address, but no return address. Inside the envelope were 2 sheets of lined, regular yellow legal paper. They were handwritten in Sherry's handwriting. The first page was titled at the top, Last Will and Testament. And it was devastating to read. On the top it said 6/1/85, so June 1st, 1985, 3:10 a.m. It read, I love y'all. I love you, Mommy, Daddy, Robert, Don, and Richard, and everyone else, and all the other friends and relatives. I'll be with my father now, so please don't worry. Just remember my witty personality and great special times we all shared together. Please don't ever let this ruin your lives. Just keep living one day at a time for Jesus. Some good will come out of this. My thoughts will always be with you and in you. Casket closed. I love you all so damn much. Sorry, Dad. I had to cuss for once. Jesus forgave me. Richard, sweetie, I really did and always will love you. I treasure our special moments. I ask one thing though. Accept Jesus as your personal Savior. My family has been the greatest influence of my life. Sorry about the cruise money. Someday, go in my place. It continues. I am sorry if I ever disappointed you in any is so much I want to say that I should have said before now. I love you. I know y'all love me and will miss me very much. But if y'all stick together like we always did, y'all can do it. Please do not become hard or upset. Everything works out for the good of those that love the Lord. Love y'all with all my heart. Sharon. Sherry Smith. P.S. Nana, I love you so much. I kind of always felt like you were favorite. You were mine. I love you a lot. Now this is written in cursive and it's some words are kind of you can tell that it was written with emotion. Like she highlighted some parts by putting a line underneath. She wrote God is love on the side. She drew a heart. I mean, there was no way that this was written by somebody else. It was a very long letter, and it was her handwriting. It was sent to forensic document examiners, and they did find fingerprints, but they all belonged to Sherry. They found these indentations on the pages, though. The paper, again, came from a yellow-lined legal pad. And you could see that had been used in the past as indentations from previous notes were visible. So they tried to read into these other indentations. So they increase the humidity of the paper, and which increased the electrical conductivity of the paper. Then they put it on a brass plate and a magnetic field was activated. Then they brushed it with a black powder which showed the prior indentations on the paper. The process brought out what seemed to be a partial phone number and a shopping list. They could read beef sticks, mother, Bob, and the letters J and S. Later that Monday afternoon at 3:08 p.m., the phone rang at the home, and the investigators were ready to record this call. Sherry's sister, 21-year-old Dawn, answered the phone. It was distorted. She identifies herself as Dawn. The guy asked to talk to Sherry's mom. And Dawn passes the phone to Hilda. He asked her if She was so upset, she blew her horn at the car, and the guy quickly swerved back into his lane. It seemed like he was leaning over in the middle of the car, but not paying attention to the driving. She then watched in her rear view mirror and saw the car pull over near the Smith's mailbox. Terry said that it was a white male, slightly balding, and she helped to come up with a sketch. The description seemed to match what the other two guys had testified already. That evening at 8:07 p.m., the phone rang once again. It was the same guy, and Sherry's sister, Dawn, answered. The kidnapper asked Dawn if she came down from Charlotte, and Dawn said, "Yes, I did." "Who's calling, please?" she asked. Then again, he asks for Sherry's mom. Dawn tells this guy before she passes the phone to her mom, "Please tell Sherry I love her." The kidnapper asked again if they received the letter today, and they said, "Yes, we did. Here's my mom." Now, when the kidnapper asked a question, Hilda, it was cutting off, it was not clear, so she asked him to speak louder. The kidnapper said, "Did you receive the letter today?" And Hilda said, "Oh, yes, I did." The kidnapper asked her, "Tell me one thing it said. Hurry." And Hilda said, "Shall Richard." The kidnapper said, "To what?" And Hilda replied there was a little heart on the side. "Shall Richard" written on the side. Then he asked how many pages, if it was a yellow legal pad, if she read that Jesus is love. And Hilda said no, it said God is love. Right. So the kidnapper was trying to reassure her that this was not a hoax, and Hilda acknowledged it. The kidnapper said that he was working with them to answer some of their prayers, which was very odd. Hilda tried to appeal to him and trying to, reason with him. She told him that, she had a question and that she believed that, he was a very kind and compassionate person. He was trying to explain how much she loved Sherry. us out of this. So Hilda said, right, okay. So the kidnapper keeps going and said something like, quote, and where she said, casket close in parentheses, if anything happens to me, she said one of her requests, I should say, is to not put her hands on her stomach. She wanted her hands crossed, like she was praying in the casket. Hilda at that point didn't understand what was going on. She assured the guy that, they didn't want to harm him, they just wanted Sherry. The kidnapper was now in a hurry because he knew that they were trying to trace the call. But Hilda, all that she cared was that she actually wanted to talk to Sherry to know that she was okay. The kidnapper said that they were looking in the wrong county and to go to Saluda County. This was kind of a quickly exchange of information in the end, but he kept insisting that they needed to go to Saluda County. The kidnapper was clearly upset at the fact that they continued to search, and according to him, in the wrong place. He ended the call saying, quote, I want to tell you one other thing. Sherry is now part of me, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Our souls are now one. Hilda was not understanding what he meant. But it was getting more and more clear. The idea that Sherry was not okay. He said, time's up. And please now have the ambulance ready at any time. As you can probably imagine, Hilda wouldn't let it go. She just needed to know that her daughter was okay. But he continued to say that she needed to have the ambulance ready, and that eventually he would give her the location. And continued to insist that they needed to go to Saluda County. He then said, okay, God bless us all. Hilda didn't want him to hang up, so she asked him, will you call me soon? And he said that he would. Then he said, please forgive me for what I did. It just got out of hand. At that point, I don't know if Hilda knew, but she just continued to say, please tell Sherry how much I love her. Her daddy loves her. Her brother and sister love her. And God bless you for taking care of her. The kidnapper ended the call saying, quote, Sherry is protected, and like I said, she's part of me now. And God looks miles away from the Smiths home, but they couldn't find anything. No fingerprints, nothing. Volunteers were everywhere looking for Sherry. The family and Sherry's boyfriend were kind of protected inside the house and not allowed to leave without an officer with them. On Tuesday, June the 4th, at 9:45 p.m., they got a call, and Don answered. He asked for Hilda, and he tells her to get pencil and paper. The kidnapper said, quote, "Okay, now this is Sherry's own words, so listen carefully. Say nothing unless you're asked, okay? And I know these calls are taped and traced, but that's irrelevant now. There's no money demanded. So here's Sherry's last request. On the 5th day, to put the family at rest. Sherry Faye being freed. Remember, we're now one soul. When located, you'll locate both of us together. We are one. God has chosen us. Respect all past and present requests, actual events and times. Jot this down." She was still writing down all this when the kidnapper interrupted her and said, quote, 3:28 in the afternoon, Friday, 31st of May, Sherry Faye was kidnapped from your mailbox with a gun. She had the fear of God in her, and she was at the mailbox. That's why she did not return back to the car. Okay, he continued. 4:58 a.m. No, I'm sorry. Hold on a minute. 3:10 a.m. Saturday, the 1st of June. She handwrote what you received. 4:58 a.m. Saturday, the 1st of June, became one-souled. Hilda interrupted him and said, "What does that even mean?" The kidnapper said that he wouldn't answer questions. And he continued, "Last between 4 and 7 Wednesday. Tomorrow, have an ambulance ready. Remember, no circus." "Wait," she said, "between 4 and 7 a.m. "No, in the afternoon," he said. He had some twisted things that he continued to say, and honestly, I was not sure if I should include them because there's a lot of, back and forth between them. But I think it's important for kind of the wrap up of this case. So the kidnapper continued, quote, "Prayers and relief coming soon. Please learn to enjoy life. Forgive. God protects the chosen. Sherry Faye's important request. Rest tonight and tomorrow. Good shall come out of this. Blessings are near. Remember, tomorrow, Wednesday, 4 in the afternoon until 7 in the evening. was ready. No circus. He then said that he would give her last-minute instructions to where to find them. Hilda was begging him not to kill her daughter. He ended the call saying, "We love and miss y'all. Get good rest tonight. Goodbye." Within minutes, police arrived once again at the payphone, but no clues that they could use. They set up roadblocks kind of around the area of that payphone, but no signs of the kidnapper. The next morning, Wednesday, June 5th at 11:54 a.m., the kidnapper called again. And when Hilda answered, the call was extremely short. He said to take Highway 378 west to traffic circle. He gave a few other instructions like turn right at the sign, the lodge number 103, then to go 1/4 mile, turn left at a white frame building. I mean, crazy specific instructions. And ended the call saying, "God chose us." The police immediately raced from the home to the location described by this guy in Saluda County, which was about 16 miles away from the home. What they found was not what they were hoping. Sherry's decomposing body, laying on her back in a wooded area behind the white building. But he was not there. She had the same clothes that she was wearing when she was abducted. She had some jewelry that were missing, but they also found duct tape still attached to her face. Because of the extreme temperatures over 100 degrees, her body was already decomposing rapidly, and there was signs of insect infestation. The medical examiner determined that Sherry had been dead for 3 to 4 days, so within 12 hours after her abduction. The cause of death was hard to determine because of her rare form of diabetes. She probably died of cardiac arrest caused by that dehydration. There were also signs of smothering, even strangulation, but it was considered a homicide from the get-go. Now all of the calls had been placed near the Smiths' home, but the very last one was over 45 miles away in Saluda County. So police now believe he might be leaving the area. But now they got another call. He called a TV reporter for Channel 10, Charlie Keys, and he explained that he wanted to turn himself in and wanted to be taken alive. He tried to explain his action, and he wanted this reporter to contact the sheriff to arrange for him to give up pictures of Sherry while she was standing at the mailbox. He claimed to have another letter from Sherry, and that she was at peace when he killed her. He also said that he was a family friend. He explained how he RAP'd and did other terrible things to her before he took her life, and that he was considering taking his own life before turning himself in. They tried to keep him on the line so the police would trace the call. It was a long call. He was explaining the meaning of the fifth day to find her on that specific day. He even said that he gave her a choice to shoot her or give her a drug overdose or even suffocate her. They just couldn't understand why he had to kill her, and he explained that it got out of hand. He got scared. He also said that he was hoping God would forgive him more than this. And that he was hoping that he didn't have to go to hell. He also said that he didn't want to go to the electric chair. He also mentioned how he was almost caught by the police when he called that time at 9:45. He was proud almost of what he did. He was making fun of the police. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, she asked him, did you want to get caught, you know? Did you want them to catch you? She continued to ask about the car, what color it was, his car, what brand, you know, what make and model, I should say. He was asking for a special prayer for him. He was assuring the family that that their daughter was strong-willed and she was not afraid to die. That she knew she was going to heaven and she was going to be an angel. There's so much about this call that I just couldn't put it into this video, or there would be a 5-part series. But just so you know, there's a full transcript available. I'll try to link it in the description box. Don was able to keep him on the phone for a long time in order to get many details as possible in order to try and identify him. The call was made from Great Falls, South Carolina, but again, no clues were found at the payphone. That Saturday, the Smith family held a funeral for Sherry and everyone in attendance was videotaped. Police believed that the killer might show up. After they came back from the funeral, the guy called them again and talked to Dawn. He told her that he was at the funeral and that the police were dumb enough to be by him and not catch him. Sherry had become best friends, and she was sharing all kinds of personal information with him, but Don wasn't falling for it and was growing sick of him. The call was placed from Augusta, Georgia, about 60 miles away. But when the police got there, no trace were found at the payphone. FBI profiler John Douglas was called in to provide a prospective profile for the killer. Now, Douglas is, the guy well known on Netflix's Mindhunter series. He's most known for being one of the first criminal profilers and has interviewed some of the worst killers in history, including Kemper, Bundy, Berkowitz, Wayne, Manson, Ridgway, and the guy know what he's doing. And he came up with a suspect that would be in the late 20s or early 30s, single, had a blue-collar work, lived nearby, low self-esteem, overweight, above average intelligence, and had a prior criminal record. He believed that the killer might work with electronics or phone systems because of the voice distortion device used on every call. He also said that he was more than likely an asocial, obsessive, compulsive person. I guess I've never heard of that before, but he know what he's talking about. Another week passed and the killer had not been heard from. The police thought that maybe he had done as he'd hinted and taken his own life, but 2 weeks after Sherry's abduction, the investigators' worst fear came true. At almost the exact time of day, it happened again, about 30-minute drive from the Smith home. And this time was a 9-year-old girl, Deborah May Helmick. She was playing in the front yard of her home with her 3-year-old brother Woody. Their father was just a few feet away inside their trailer home when a neighbor, Ricky Morgan, saw a silver car with red racing stripes drive up. A man came out of the vehicle, grabbed Deborah May around the waist and threw her in the car, screaming. The car then sped away. Deborah May's father hadn't heard his daughter's screams because of the loud air conditioner running in the trailer. But Ricky witnessed the abduction. Terrified, little 3-year-old Woody only said, the bad man said, he was coming back to get me. The two men got in the car and went in the direction the abductor's car was going, but found nothing. They reported it to the police and they started an air and ground search. They were afraid that this was the same man that killed Sherry Smith. Police now had a witness that saying something like, he wanted to, God wants you to join Sherry Faye this month, next month, this year, next year. He then asked about Deborah May. He asked, Is this the girl, in Richard County? You don't know about her? It was giving all kind of specific directions on how to even get there. Now Dawn started to become kind of friendly with him to get more out of him. And she said something like, just out of curiosity, how old are you? He answered, your time is near. God forgive us and protect us all. Good night for now. Dawn E. Smith. Dawn tried to keep him on the phone, asking for some pictures that he said he was gonna send her. And the killer said that apparently the FBI must have them because he did send it. Dawn continued to assure him that if she didn't get them, the FBI didn't get them either. The killer wanted to end the call, but Dawn was angry and continued to ask about those photos. But he finally hung up. You could clearly see that he was fixated on Dawn. He was threatening her and saying that she was going to join her sister. The police raced to the location and details that were given in the call, and they found the body of a tiny blonde girl, clothed in her tank top, shorts, and panties. But over her panties were a pair of silk adult bikini briefs. Remnants of duct tape were also found in her hair. It was so hot that the decomposition was very accelerated, and the autopsy was inconclusive. They had no cause of death, but it was presumed suffocation. They didn't know if he sexually abused her, but the odd extra pair of panties suggested she had. It was Deborah May. They traced the last call, but they just couldn't find any evidence or anything that would link to a killer. He was gone way before the police arrived there. No witnesses, no fingerprints. Now the police knew that he had no intentions of stopping, and that Dawn was going to be his next victim. Now, the forensic document team got a big break. The last will and testament, the letter that had been mailed from the killer to the family, revealed more clues. They were able to recover an imprint of a partial phone number, as I mentioned, but from the letter they got a name, Joe. It had an Alabama prefix, and the last 4 digits digits were only missing one digit, so leaving only 10 possible phone numbers. They called the 10 numbers until they found the one with the name Joe. And they found Joey Shepard. When they looked in his phone records, they found that he received calls from Saluda County. He was quickly eliminated as a suspect. He didn't fit the profile, but he was asked if he knew somebody in Saluda County, and he said, yes, my parents live in Saluda County. On the evening of June 26, police raced to the home of Ellis and Sharon Shepard, 2 miles from where Sherry's body was found. They were expecting to find their suspect, but were quickly disappointed. The Shepards didn't fit the FBI profile either. So they questioned the Shepards and found that they had just returned from a 6-week trip. They explained that they travel for extended periods and that they hired a local man, Larry Jan Bell, who would house it for them. I'm sorry, Larry Jean Bell. They described Larry as mid-30s white male, lived with his parents, reddish brown hair, beard, and mustache. It fit the FBI profile perfectly. Detectives questioned the Shepards all night, but it was clear that all they were doing is getting information on this guy. During the questioning, they played the tapes of the phone calls for the Shepards. Despite the electronic distortion of the calls, the Shepards quickly confirmed that it was the boys of Larry. They told police that Bell had picked them up from the airport. Larry Bell picked them up from the airport just a few days earlier when they returned from their vacation. They said that coming back from the airport, the conversation was all about these 2 murders, that he was obsessed with them. Mrs. Shepard also said that he mistakenly called her Sherry on several occasions. She also knew that he had also collected all of the news articles of the murders from the local newspapers. This was their guy. Larry Bell had been staying at the Shepards' home while they were on vacation, so they searched the home and they found a .38 caliber handgun that Ellis owned was missing. He had to be back. Larry Bell was due to come back to the Shepards' home that morning at 7:30 a.m. to work, and that's when he was arrested on the morning of June 27. After the arrest, a forensic team continued their search of the Shepards' home. something like, quote, "This Larry Jean Bell couldn't have done this, but another Larry Bell could have been the one." Hilda was so frustrated she told him that she knew that he killed her daughter. She said that she didn't hate him, and Larry Bell teared up, but still didn't confess. He made a mockery of the trial. He would say weird things, refusing to answer questions, rumbling and mumbling nonsense. One of his favorite responses to questioning was, quote, "Silence is golden." Then at some other point, he yelled something like, "I would like Dawn E. Smith to marry me." I mean, Sherry's sister. Eventually, he was found guilty of murdering both Sherry Smith and Deborah May Helmick and was sentenced to death. During his incarceration, he repeatedly claimed that he was Jesus Christ. In the end, he chose to die by the electric chair rather than lethal injection, and was put to death on October 4th, 1996. Now, I've covered serial killers. I've covered terrible cases like the toolbox murders, other more personal family cases like the Watts, the Petersons, but there's something like this kind of case, like I can think of the other case that this reminded me of. Oh, the Zodiac with the letters. But this is like even crazier because this guy was calling them, and you know, it's unbelievable that this guy was able to do everything that he did and still not get caught. It's amazing that the forensic team were able to find that phone number and somewhat link to the guy out of state, and then kind of trace it back. And I mean, it's amazing in the end the work that the police did in this case. But how sick is this case? I mean, I have a long driveway myself, and I see my kids walking up and down the driveway all day long, going to school, coming back from school, you know, meeting with friends. And if I see my daughter coming, towards the house, although my driveway is not, 750 feet, it's still more like 3/4 of that. But, you have a sense of safety. That's your driveway, that's your property. You're getting home. You're almost home. How is it possible that somebody can come and take you? And with a great view from his office, not even the dad spotted what happened. And then the other dad with the kids playing in the front yard. How is it possible that this guy felt okay to go into, different people's houses and take their kids from their front yard? I mean, it bothers me to think that there's people that think this way, and that, he could have gotten away with it if he had stopped. case, thankfully he didn't. And I think in the end he was a sick person, but is that an excuse? Is that good enough? I don't think so. I hope that you found this case interesting. I know that I don't cover this kind of cases when there's a lot of